Hello, I'm back in my shop again, and I'm in what my parents, who are from the southeastern United States, called Sunday go to meeting clothes. And I'm dressed up, in other words. In any event, I have here a set on my bench, and I put it on a cloth so you could see better. Tools that my son described to me as marking tools or scribing tools, and I wasn't sure what he had in mind, but this turned out to be what he did have in mind. I'll explain to them generally and then demonstrate briefly on a piece of wood how one or two might be used. At this end, I have tools that are called generally squares. This is it doesn't do anything but mark a right angle, 90-degree angle. It's small and it's very precise. I don't mess around with this one very much because it's the anchor for my tools that are like this. These others are adjustable in that at least this one is the most common. The ruler part of it slides back and forth on the part that anchors it to the wood. So that's an adjustable square. This one is a machinist square, I'm calling it, because it allows you to change the angles of the square against this surface. Very handy tools. This is a very specific square that is designed by the Japanese craftsmen to make, usually they made things like soji doors out of them. And they are very flat, very well designed so that you can put them flat against a piece of wood. And this part of it can be a little lower so it kind of locks in, believe it or not, and then that becomes the square part. It's a very useful tool. So these are one kind of marking tools or guides. And these are another kind of thing that actually mark the wood. This is a device that slides up and down, and it allows you, this is a little knife. You can barely see the tip of it, but it's there, and you can make it deeper or not. Well, that's for marking a piece of wood like this in a particular depth. And as you move it across, it's all at the same depth. And then this side, you can mark it, and you can follow that line clear around the piece of wood, and it's all very precise. This one is the same thing, only it has the advantage of there being two little nail points on one side and one on the other, and you can adjust the distance between those points in a number of ways. This one is another type of thing that enables you to mark on a piece of wood, as I was doing, like this. The wheel makes it easier to cut the wood, and this is a precision tool in that you can adjust the distance between this and this in very precise ways by this little screw thing. Well, you spend a lot of money for that. Anyway, now I have tools that are more like knives and I would say more like ice picks. But they're used for marking. You can make a point with this. It's like an ice pick. I think it's called an awl. And then this has the advantage of having a knife on one side and a kind of a point on the other, so you can use it either way. They both are designed so that you would mark along the edge of something like this square and make a scratch or a cut, and that would mark the place where you want it to be. This is just a usual kind of a shop knife that often you see. This one is a little bit more flexible. I have a screwdriver here, and I can undo this locking screw and move the blade at a longer or shorter distance from where you want it to be. these are very unique, I should say unique. Nothing can be very unique. This is unique. I don't think there's any ones like it in the world that I know of, but they are Japanese tools, and they are designed to solve the problem that many craftsmen have of using a pencil or a scratching tool against a flat surface like this, and making the mark so that it's exactly the same distance as this from the cutting point. That's done by virtue of these tools being flat on one side, and there's quite a depth of the flatness. This side is a little different cutting, but the point of it, the cutting point, is slightly bent to one side or the other. This one is bent on one side and this one's bent on the other, and that enables you to make a scribe or a mark on a piece of wood like this onto the surface that you may be marking. Oh, gosh, I don't know how I can do this. Can you see it all right? Like this. You can mark it like this, and it will make a scratch that's exactly the same in its distance as this is. And so that's, or you can scribe around it and you're making an exact copy of it. This one is bent one way and this is bent the other, so you can do a one on one side like this and the other one on this side, and it works just perfectly. Well, those are the kinds of tools that you would use, that I use, to make a joint something like this. This is a scrap I found in my scrap wood pile of a already finished piece that is a tenon into a mortise that makes it all locked together. It was part of a chest I made. If you wanted to, this is a hole that this goes into. It was part of the construction. Well, you'd use these marking tools to mark these distances from here to here, for example, and from this little tenon, you could make it easily with this one that has 2 points on it, and you could run it along the edge and adjust the depth and the distance between the points, and voila, you have it. Well, that's the long and the short of these very handy marking and scribing tools.